Chapter 6. Logan. I leaned back in my seat, eyes never leaving the glass fortress that housed the conglomerate's main office. Dan was beside me, chewing on a piece of gum like it owed him money. "Busy," he muttered, nodding towards the security guards milling by the entrance. "Predictable," I replied, fingers tapping a staccato rhythm on the steering wheel. The observation had become routine. The security team followed their patterns like clockwork, a dance I'd memorized down to the last twirl. "Logan, what's the play?" Dan asked, glancing at me with those steel blue eyes that missed nothing on the field. But this game was mine. Tech was my turf. "Patience," I said. "We watch, we wait." I squinted, focusing on the digital fortress behind the concrete and glass. My mind painted the invisible streams of data flowing in and out. There was a chink in their armor. There always was. "Dan, you remember that system upgrade they bragged about last month?" I kept my voice even, barely above a whisper, as if the walls had ears. "Yeah, supposed to be Fort Knox." "Supposed to be," I echoed, a smirk tugging at my lips. They'd overlooked something, a tiny detail only someone who breathed binary would catch. "Found a back door. It's small, but it's enough." My fingers itched for my keyboard. The weakness was buried deep in their code, a remnant of an older system they thought they'd patched out. "Back door, huh? That's your way of saying you're smarter than them?" Dan's chuckle was a rumble in the quiet car. "Something like that." I was already planning 10 steps ahead. This wasn't just about breaking in, it was personal. The rigid systems, the control, they reminded me too much of the RAF, made my skin crawl. "Let's not get cocky," Dan warned, but there was a pride in his tone. He might not understand the intricacies of my world, but he got the gist of it, and he trusted me. "Never," I said, although we both knew it was a lie. Cockiness was my middle name when it came to anything with a circuit board. "All right, genius, when do we strike?" "Tonight, after they think they're safe and sound." My gaze didn't waver from the building. Inside, there were secrets waiting to be whispered to those who dared listen. "Sarah's going to kill me if I'm late again," Dan grumbled. But he was in. He always was in. It was more than a job. It was a vendetta against life's cruel twists, against the depression that gnawed at us both, a silent acknowledgement that we were each other's lifeline. "Promise you'll be home in time for breakfast," I said, clapping a hand on his shoulder. It was a promise I intended to keep, even if I had to drag the entire digital empire down with me. The clock struck 2 a.m. Shadows shifted. Time for the guards to switch. Dan and I huddled in the darkness, our breaths fogging up the cold air. The moment was near. "Get ready," I whispered. The security team inside lumbered about, their routine changing of the guard as predictable as the setting sun. They didn't know they were part of a dance, and I was the choreographer. Dan nodded, his eyes fixed on the entrance. He was solid, reliable, the muscle to my brains. We both needed this win. For Sarah, for Lily, for every damn day we endured the crushing weight of helplessness. The new team ambled in. Doors clanked shut behind them. A brief window opened. A lapse in their electronic fortress. Now, I flipped open my laptop, its screen glowing against my face, an oasis of light in a desert of dark thoughts. My fingers danced across the keyboard, a rapid-fire rhythm drilled into me by military protocols and a desperate need to prove myself after everything fell apart. "Come on, Logan," Dan muttered, his voice a low hum of anxiety. "Almost there," I shot back. My mind spun with algorithms and code as I honed in on the vulnerability I'd spotted earlier, a crack in their wall. I could almost feel the pulse of the firewall before me, a beast guarding its treasure. My hands were a blur. Click-clack, click-clack. The firewall loomed, a monolith of zeros and ones. But every monolith has its weak points. I worked the keyboard like a safecracker, each stroke bringing me closer to the prize. Got it! I breathed out a sigh of relief mixed with triumph. The firewall crumbled under my assault, its defences laid bare and wanting. I was inside their network, a world of secrets just waiting to be unravelled. Nice work, Dan said, a hint of awe colouring his voice. His broad shoulder bumped mine in a silent cheer. He didn't need to understand the technicalities. He knew victory when he saw it. Let's not celebrate yet, I cautioned. The hard part was done, but the hardest was yet to come. Sweat formed on my brow, not from exertion, but the electric thrill of the challenge. We were more than thieves in the night. We were Robin Hoods in a digital forest, and we had just found our way through the thicket. The assets lay ahead, ripe for the taking, and with Dan at my side, I felt the old spark of defiance flare up in me. Lead the way, mate, Dan replied, his hand gripping my shoulder in solidarity. Together we moved forward, bound by friendship and a shared hunger for justice. In the silent camaraderie of the night, we were invincible. Gloved fingers flew across the keyboard. The screen's glow was the only light in the car. Code scrolled past, a blur to any other eye but mine. This was the dance I knew, step by step. Careful, Dan whispered. His gaze didn't leave the rear-view mirror, watching for trouble. Always am. My answer was short. No room for error. Not here, not now. The network was a labyrinth, protocols stacked upon protocols. They hid their secrets well, but not well enough. Each layer peeled back under my touch, like an onion or a ticking bomb. The thrill was the same. Got anything? Dan's voice cut through the tension. Patience, I said. It was all about patterns, predictability, human error. They had it in spades. I found a string of code, sloppy, vulnerable. It was like they'd left the door ajar just for me. I slipped through unseen, a ghost in their machine. Nice, I murmured. Adrenaline spiked. Focus narrowed. I was close. Logan? Almost there. The digital vault loomed on my virtual horizon, a monolith of encryption, cold, impenetrable. To some. Here we go, I muttered. My fingers danced faster, commands layered upon commands. Encryption was a language, and I was fluent. Talk to me, mate. Cracking it, I replied. The vault was a knot, tight, complex, but every knot has its loose end. I found mine. Gotcha. Triumph punctuated the word. The vault yielded, its treasures exposed. Done, I said with finality. Dan let out a breath he'd been holding. Good on you, Logan. Let's not count our chickens yet. There was still a way to go. Right, Dan nodded, his eyes never leaving the shadows around us. Fingers flew, screen glowed, codes cracked like dry twigs underfoot. Each line of code a hurdle, each hurdle cleared with a grunt of satisfaction. The vault's security was peeling away, layer by delicate layer. Tick-tock, Dan whispered. Quiet. I needed silence, concentration. The first barrier fell, a digital wall crumbling. Invisible dust settled. I was in deeper now, closer to the core. Nice work. Shh. Couldn't afford distractions. Not now. My mind raced. Algorithms spun. Numbers danced. The second barrier gave way. A faint smile. No time for celebration. Logan? Still with me. My voice was steel, eyes fixed on the prize. Good man. Focus, Dan. We had one shot at this, one chance to break the chains. Right. Another code disarmed. A third. A fourth. My brain hummed with electricity, every synapse firing, precision, speed. It was all about the rhythm. Almost there, I muttered. Careful. Always am. I wasn't just an IT consultant. I was an artist. These codes were my canvas. Logan, look out. Alert. Something new. An alarm system. Sophisticated, silent, deadly. One wrong move and it would scream. Lockdown. Bugger. Breath held. The stakes raised. Can you bypass it? Dan's voice was tight. Have to. There was no turning back. Be quick. Quick and quiet. Like a shadow. Like a thought. Right. Here goes nothing. I dove into the alarm's code. A maze of triggers and fail-safes. A high wire act without a net. Easy? Dan murmured. Easy doesn't live here anymore. I counted each measure with a countermeasure, a dance of digits, a duel of wits. Steady, mate. Steady as she goes. This was more than a heist. It was a statement against control, against predictability. Got it? Dan asked. Got it. The alarm was disarmed. Another ghost in the machine. Brilliant! Silence is golden. The assets lay ahead, riches behind virtual lock and key. Let's wrap this up. Wrapping. This is what we came for, what we risked everything for. Make it count, said Dan. Counting on it. Our survival hinged on this moment. Out here, in the vastness of rural Australia, friendship wasn't just important. It was everything. Digits danced across the keyboard, a silent ballet. Code cracked open like a sun-baked earth giving way to rain. Got him, I muttered, eyes locked on the screen. My fingers flew, a blur of motion shaped by years in a uniform too stiff for comfort. The files spilled their secrets, bearing the assets hidden within. They oozed out, digital gold flowing into my waiting drives. Smooth as, Dan's voice cut through the tension. Trust hung between us, an unspoken pact made under wide-open skies. Like shearing a sheep, I grinned, transferring the last byte to safety. A remote server tucked away, miles from the conglomerate's grasp. Our little patch of cyber soil. Clean-up time? Dan asked, the hint of adrenaline in his tone. Clean-up time, I echoed, navigating back through the labyrinth of systems I'd just conquered. Erasure was an art. Every stroke had to be purposeful, decisive. No breadcrumbs left for hungry hounds. Traceless, I murmured, confirming my handiwork. Commands executed with precision, wiping the slate so clean it shone. Our invisible dance through their network would remain our secret. Done and dusted, I said, finally pulling back from the machine that hummed softly, ignorant of its violation. It was as if we were never there. Let's not overstay our welcome, Dan suggested, his gaze fixed on the quiet office around us. Agreed. Survival wasn't just about the heist. It was about walking away, unseen, unheard. Just two mates against the world, with nothing but the red dirt and the stars to witness our deeds. Ready to hit the dusty trail? Dan's question carried the weight of all we'd done, all we'd yet to do. The office loomed silent behind us, its secrets pocketed, its walls none the wiser. Dan's breaths were even, steady, a runner's calm. Mine were quiet, calculated. No guards gave chase, no alarms sang their shrill song. The air outside tasted like freedom, tinged with a metallic aftertaste of victory. Gravel crunched underfoot as we made for the car, a nondescript sedan chosen for its ability to blend into the night. Smooth, said Dan, his voice low but laced with triumph. Like clockwork, I replied, my hand finding the car keys in my pocket. No lights flickered on in the building as we slid into the front seats. The engine purred to life, a soft whisper against the pounding of our hearts. We left nothing behind, not even a whisper of disruption in the cool night air. As we drove away from the conglomerate's fortress, the tension that had been coiled tight within me began to unravel. The road stretched out before us, flanked by dark fields and the occasional glint of a distant farmhouse light. Did it feel good? Dan asked, eyes on the road but his mind clearly elsewhere. Good? It felt... I searched for the right word. Just. He nodded, the corner of his mouth twitching up in satisfaction. Our headlights cut through the darkness, two beacons racing towards an uncertain horizon. But for now, the heist was all that mattered. Cheers, mate, I said, the relief palpable in my voice. To us. To us, he echoed, the bond between us reinforced with every mile we put between ourselves and the conglomerate. We'd struck a blow, not just for ourselves, but for the unseen many who laboured under the weight of corporate giants. The files we extracted were more than data. They were leverage, a chance to tip the scales. And we'd done it together, two men from Meningie against a Goliath. Sarah will never believe this, Dan mused, a rare grin breaking through. Let's keep it our little secret, I suggested, knowing full well the stakes of what we carried with us. Deal. The car hummed along, carrying us back to the brown dirt roads we knew by heart. In the rear-view mirror, the conglomerate's building shrank into nothingness. We didn't look back. Ahead was all that mattered. Our town, our lives, our continued defiance. Under the vast Australian sky, friendship wasn't just important, it was everything. The road stretched before us, blank and unending. Dan's grip on the wheel was steady. My fingers danced over the laptop keys, still warm from the heist. Okay, I said, my voice low. We've got a mountain of data here. Right. Dan kept his eyes ahead. What's the play? Expose them. I flipped through the files, lines of code blurring together. Every dirty secret to the highest bidder. Media? His knuckles whitened. Too risky. Might twist our story. Then who? He glanced at me, searching. Activists. Hacktivists. Anyone with a cause against these suits. I felt the weight of the information we held. Power in ones and zeros. Make it hurt. Dan's words were ice. Exactly. Logan, he said after a beat, you sure you're ready for this? Been ready. My hands stopped moving. Been ready since they denied me those pills. Got your back, mate. No hesitation. Always, I faced him. And Sarah? Complicated. A muscle twitched in his jaw. Still, I trailed off, couldn't find the words. Still fighting. His voice was flat. I nodded. We were both running from something. But here, on this road, we were facing head-on what stood against us. Survival wasn't just about living. It was about fighting back. Let's hit them where it hurts most then, I said. The laptop screen cast a cold glow on my face. Bank accounts? Dan asked, a half smile forming. Bank accounts. I cracked my knuckles. And reputations. Good. He accelerated. Can't wait to see their faces. Neither can I. The night swallowed us whole, but inside the car, two minds plotted revenge. Meningie was more than a spot on the map, a town people drive through en route to somewhere more interesting. It was our battleground. Friendship, I murmured, almost to myself. Survival, Dan replied. Against the silence of rural South Australia, our pact was sealed.